Jordan Pierce stood in the middle of the living room holding the divorce papers with both hands like they were heavier than paper and lighter than the respect he deserved. Across from him his wife Mariah Pierce stood in a tight red dress with her curls falling over one shoulder and a smile that looked like victory instead of sadness. Behind her family filled the room like an audience at a comedy show, her mother pointing and laughing, her brother grinning, her cousins whispering, and her father watching with the quiet satisfaction of a man who believed his daughter was finally doing something smart. Jordan's eyes moved across their faces slowly, not angry and not begging, just calm in a way that made their laughter sound uglier. What none of them knew was that 7 hours earlier Jordan had signed the final acquisition documents that made him the new majority owner of the very family company they were so proud of. And before the night ended the man they were calling useless would become the reason their family name no longer meant anything at all. Mariah stepped forward and tapped the top page with her finger like she was instructing a child. "Sign it, Jordan." Her voice was sweet but sharp. Jordan looked down at the papers again and read the first line slowly as if he had never seen the word divorce before. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Mariah's mother Patrice laughed loudly behind her. Look at him reading it like he can read himself into being a man. The room laughed again. Jordan lifted his eyes to Patrice calmly. Patrice was the kind of woman who wore judgment like perfume. She had never liked Jordan. Not because he was bad. But because he was quiet. And Patrice hated quiet men because quiet men could not be controlled. Mariah's brother DeAndre leaned against the wall smiling. "Bro, you really thought you were gonna marry into this family and get comfortable?" Jordan kept his face steady. Mariah's cousin Keisha pointed at Jordan's suit. "He wearing a suit like he got somewhere important to be." The room laughed again. Jordan looked down at his suit. It was a clean navy suit. Not flashy. Not expensive looking. But fitted well. Jordan always dressed like a man who respected himself. Even when nobody else did. Mariah stepped closer. Her eyes cold. "You know why we're doing this, Jordan?" Jordan's voice stayed calm. "Because you think I'm holding you back." Mariah smiled wider. "Exactly." Jordan nodded slowly. Mariah continued. "I'm tired of being the only one with ambition." Jordan looked at her. Mariah continued. "I'm tired of being the only one trying to build a future." Jordan's jaw tightened slightly. Mariah continued. "And I'm tired of you acting like you're some kind of hidden genius when you can't even help my family." Patrice clapped. "That part." Jordan looked toward Mariah's father Harold. Harold finally spoke. "Jordan. You a good man. But you not the man for my daughter." Jordan nodded slowly. Harold continued. "She needs a husband who can provide. She needs a husband who can elevate her. She needs a husband who can stand in rooms with real men." Jordan's eyes stayed calm. Harold continued. "And you? You just not that." Mariah smiled and turned back to Jordan. "See? Even my daddy knows." Jordan looked down at the papers again. Mariah leaned in closer. "Sign." Jordan asked calmly. "So this is why you invited me here?" Mariah nodded. "Yes." Jordan glanced around the living room. The house was Mariah's childhood home. Bright windows. White curtains. Soft furniture. Family photos on the wall. A space that was supposed to feel warm. But tonight it felt like a courtroom. Mariah's family was not here to comfort her. They were here to watch him fall. Jordan's voice stayed calm. "You couldn't do this at home." Mariah laughed. "At home. Jordan. This is family business." Patrice laughed again. "Yes. We wanted witnesses." Jordan nodded slowly. "Witnesses." Mariah's cousin Keisha smirked. "So you don't try to lie later." Jordan stared at them. Then he nodded slowly again. "Okay." Mariah pushed the papers closer. Her nails were polished. Her ring finger empty. She had removed her wedding ring already. Not because she was hurt. Because she was ready. Jordan noticed it. And something inside him hardened. Not hatred. Acceptance. Jordan's phone buzzed quietly in his pocket. He did not pull it out. Because he already knew what it was. It was the final confirmation message from his legal team. The acquisition was complete. The transfer of ownership had been filed. The board had signed. The bank had approved. And Jordan Pierce now owned 61% of Pierce and Grant Manufacturing. The same company Mariah's father always bragged about. The same company Mariah's brother expected to inherit. The same company Patrice used as proof that their family was better than others. The same company that was about to collapse because Harold had mismanaged it for years. Jordan saved it. Jordan bought it. Jordan took it. And they did not even know. Mariah stared at Jordan's face. Her voice dripping with superiority. You know what's funny? Jordan did not respond. Mariah continued. You always act like you're calm. Like you're above it. But you're not above anything. You're just broke and quiet. The room laughed again. Jordan's eyes remained steady. Mariah continued. You don't even understand how embarrassed I've been. Jordan finally spoke softly. Embarrassed by what? Mariah's eyes flashed. By you. By your little job. By your cheap car. By the way you don't talk to people. By the way you don't network. By the way you don't chase money. Jordan nodded slowly. Mariah continued. I'm done. I'm done pretending you're enough. Jordan looked at her. His voice calm. And what happens after I sign? Mariah smiled. After you sign. I go forward. I take my life back. Patrice laughed. And she upgrades. Jordan's eyes shifted toward Patrice again. Patrice leaned forward. Yes. Upgrades. Because my daughter deserves better. Jordan nodded slowly. Then he asked calmly. Better like what? Patrice laughed. Better like a man with money. Better like a man with connections. Better like a man who can stand beside her without looking like a shadow. Mariah smiled proudly. Exactly. Jordan stared at Mariah. Then he asked. So you want to leave me because you think I'm poor? Mariah shrugged. It's not just that. Jordan nodded. But it's mostly that. Mariah's smile tightened. If you want to call it that. Yes. Jordan took a slow breath. Then he looked down at the papers again. Mariah's father Harold cleared his throat. Jordan. Just sign it. Don't make this harder. Jordan nodded slowly. Then he asked. Do you know who bought your company? The room paused for a moment. Mariah laughed. Jordan. Why you always talking nonsense? Harold frowned. What you mean who bought the company? Jordan's voice stayed calm. Pierce and Grant Manufacturing. You've been trying to sell it for months. Harold's face tightened. Who told you that? Patrice snapped. That's none of his business. Jordan nodded slowly. Then he asked again. Do you know who bought it? DeAndre laughed. Some white investor probably. Keisha laughed. Or some Nigerian billionaire. The room laughed again. Mariah smirked. Jordan. Stop trying to sound important. Jordan nodded. Okay. Mariah leaned forward. Sign. Jordan lifted the pen slowly. The room leaned in like they were watching a show. Mariah's mother whispered loudly. Look at him. He about to sign his own exit. The room laughed again. Jordan held the pen above the line. He paused. Not because he was afraid. but because he was thinking. Thinking about the man he used to be. The man who would have begged. The man who would have apologized. The man who would have tried to convince them he was worthy. But Jordan was not that man anymore. Because 7 hours earlier, Jordan sat in a boardroom downtown while attorneys spoke in calm voices. He watched as the final signatures were placed on the acquisition agreement. He watched as the bank confirmed the transfer. He watched as the chairman of the board shook his hand. And in that moment Jordan realized. Power was not loud. Power was quiet. Power did not need applause. Power moved in silence. And now Jordan sat in Mariah's childhood living room surrounded by people laughing. And he realized. They were not laughing because they were strong. They were laughing because they were ignorant. Mariah leaned in closer. Sign it. Jordan finally lowered the pen. And he signed. Mariah exhaled like she had been holding her breath for years. She snatched the papers quickly and held them up like a trophy. Patrice clapped. Yes. Yes. Finally. DeAndre laughed. Bro, you just freed her. Keisha laughed. Now she can go find a real man. Mariah smiled at Jordan like she had just won. Jordan stood there calmly. He did not argue. He did not shout. He did not plead. He simply looked at them. Then he spoke in a voice so calm it made the room quiet. Congratulations. Patrice frowned. Congratulations for what? Jordan's eyes stayed steady. For finally showing me who you are. Mariah rolled her eyes. Oh please. Jordan nodded slowly. Then he reached into his suit pocket. He pulled out his phone. Mariah smirked. Calling your little friends. Jordan looked at her. His voice calm. No. I'm calling the board. Mariah froze slightly. The room laughed. DeAndre laughed louder. Board. Jordan, you think you on a board? Jordan nodded slowly. Yes. Mariah's laughter faded. Harold frowned. Jordan. What board? Jordan looked at Harold. Pierce and Grant Manufacturing. Harold's face tightened. Jordan continued calmly. The board that now answers to me. The room went silent for half a second. Then Patrice laughed loudly. Boy, stop. Jordan's eyes stayed steady. Mariah laughed too. Jordan, you really trying to scare us? Jordan nodded. No. I'm trying to prepare you. Mariah's smile tightened. Prepare us for what? Jordan looked at her calmly. For tomorrow morning. When you wake up and realize you divorced the man who now owns your family company. The room froze. Patrice's laughter died. DeAndre's grin disappeared. Keisha's mouth opened. Harold's face turned pale. Mariah stared at Jordan. Her voice shaky. What? Jordan's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen. Then he looked back up. His voice calm. It's done. The acquisition closed 7 hours ago. Harold's knees weakened. Patrice whispered. No. Mariah shook her head violently. No. Jordan. Stop playing. Jordan nodded slowly. I'm not playing. DeAndre stepped forward angrily. Man, you lying. Jordan looked at him. Then he spoke calmly. Check your email. The room went silent. Because everyone realized Jordan was not smiling. He was not joking. He was not bluffing. He was calm. The calm of a man who already won. Mariah's hands trembled as she grabbed her phone. Harold grabbed his phone too. Patrice stared at Jordan like she was seeing him for the first time. And in that moment, the laughter that filled the room minutes ago turned into fear. Mariah's fingers shook so badly as she unlocked her phone that she typed her own passcode wrong twice, and the silence in the living room grew heavier with every second she failed to open the screen. Harold stood stiff near the couch gripping his phone like it was a life jacket, and Patrice's face had lost all color as she stared at Jordan the way people stare at a man who just predicted a car crash. DeAndre was still trying to hold on to his anger, but his eyes were already searching Jordan's face for signs of a joke, and Keisha had stopped smiling completely as if her teeth suddenly felt too exposed. Jordan remained still in the center of the room, hands relaxed at his sides, calm in a way that made the whole scene feel unreal. Mariah finally opened her inbox and her eyes darted across the screen as she scrolled quickly, and Jordan could see the moment her heart sank because her shoulders dropped like the weight of her pride had finally landed. Harold's phone buzzed next and he froze, then slowly raised the screen closer to his face, and his lips moved as he read without making sound. Patrice leaned toward him, her voice suddenly thin. "Harold. What does it say?" Harold did not answer at first because his throat was locked, and when he finally spoke his voice sounded like a man who had swallowed sand. "It says the sale is finalized." Patrice blinked like she did not understand the words. "What sale?" Harold swallowed hard. "Pierce and Grant." Patrice's mouth opened and closed. "No. No, no, no." DeAndre snatched Harold's phone and scanned the email fast, then his face twisted and his hands tightened as if he wanted to crush the screen. "This is some scam." Jordan's voice stayed calm. "It's not a scam." Keisha whispered. "Who bought it?" Jordan looked at her. Then he answered quietly. "I did." The room froze completely. Mariah's eyes lifted from her phone and locked on Jordan like she was staring at a ghost. Her voice came out broken. "You." Jordan nodded once. "Yes." Mariah's breathing became shallow. Patrice stepped forward with trembling hands. "No. No, you didn't." Jordan's eyes stayed steady. Patrice's voice rose. "You can't even afford a decent car." Jordan nodded slowly. "That's true." Patrice shook her head violently. "You can't even afford to buy my daughter the life she deserves." Jordan's voice stayed calm. "Also true." Patrice's face twisted with desperation. "So how could you buy a company?" Jordan looked at her for a long moment. Then he answered with quiet finality. "Because I don't spend money to impress people. I spend money to build power." Mariah's lips trembled. Her voice cracked. "Jordan. Stop. Stop talking like that." Jordan looked at her calmly. "Like what?" Mariah whispered. "Like you're somebody." Jordan's eyes softened slightly. "Mariah. I have always been somebody. You just never respected the version of somebody that wasn't loud." The room stayed silent. Harold's face looked older than it did 10 minutes ago. He stepped forward slowly. "Jordan. Why?" Jordan looked at Harold. His voice stayed calm. "Because your company was sinking." Harold swallowed hard. Jordan continued. "You were about to lose everything." Harold's jaw tightened. Jordan continued. "And you were about to lay off hundreds of black workers who depended on you." Patrice snapped. "That is not his concern." Jordan's eyes shifted to Patrice. "It became my concern when I realized nobody in this room cared about them." Patrice opened her mouth. No words came. Jordan looked back at Harold. "Your debt was growing. Your contracts were falling apart. Your suppliers were leaving. And you were too proud to accept help from the man you called useless." Harold's eyes watered. "Jordan. I didn't know." Jordan nodded slowly. "I know. That is the problem." Mariah stepped forward suddenly, her face changing fast from shock to panic to something that looked like pleading. "Jordan. Listen. We can talk about this." Jordan stared at her. Mariah's voice shook. You don't have to do anything crazy. Jordan nodded slowly. Crazy. Mariah reached for the divorce papers that were still in her hand. She suddenly held them like a mistake instead of a trophy. Mariah's voice became softer. Jordan. We were just upset. Jordan's eyes stayed calm. Upset. Mariah swallowed hard. It was emotional. Jordan nodded. Emotional. Mariah's voice became desperate. We didn't mean it. Jordan looked past her at the family. Patrice. DeAndre. Keisha. All of them were watching like their survival depended on Jordan's next breath. Jordan spoke quietly. You did mean it. The room stayed silent. Jordan continued. You laughed. You pointed. You mocked me. And you did it because you believed I was powerless. Patrice whispered. Jordan, please. Jordan's eyes narrowed slightly. Please. Patrice stepped closer. Jordan. I'm sorry. Jordan nodded slowly. You're not sorry. You're scared. Patrice's eyes filled with tears. Jordan continued. And fear is not remorse. It is just fear. Mariah's voice rose suddenly. Jordan. Stop. Stop talking to my mother like that. Jordan looked at her. Then he spoke calmly. Your mother talked to me like that for years. Mariah froze. Jordan continued. And you laughed with her. Mariah's lips trembled. Jordan. I didn't know you had money. Jordan's face hardened slightly. And there it is. Mariah froze again. Jordan continued. You didn't know. So you treated me like trash. Mariah's voice cracked. No. Jordan continued. You didn't know. So you decided I was not worth your love. Mariah whispered. Jordan. Jordan continued. You didn't know. So you handed me divorce papers like I was a bad investment. Mariah's tears fell. Jordan continued. But the truth is. I have never been poor. I have been private. The room stayed silent. DeAndre stepped forward again, trying to regain control. Man, you can't just buy our company. Jordan looked at him calmly. I already did. DeAndre's jaw clenched. We built that. Jordan nodded. Your family built a name. Then they destroyed the business. DeAndre's eyes flashed. You can't come in and take over. Jordan's voice stayed calm. That's how ownership works. DeAndre's fists clenched. Harold stepped between them quickly. DeAndre, stop. DeAndre turned toward his father. Dad. You gonna let him disrespect us? Harold's face was broken. Because Harold understood the truth now. The truth that hurt the most. Jordan had always been the smartest man in the room. And Harold had never seen it. Harold's voice came out low. DeAndre. Sit down. DeAndre froze. Patrice's eyes widened. Harold continued. This is not a game. Patrice turned to Harold. How could this happen? Harold whispered. Because I failed. Patrice snapped. No. Because he's lying. Jordan's voice stayed calm. I can show you the documents. Mariah suddenly stepped closer to Jordan. Her voice trembling. Jordan. If you bought the company. That means. Jordan looked at her. Mariah swallowed hard. That means you're my boss. Jordan nodded slowly. Not yet. Mariah frowned. What do you mean not yet? Jordan's eyes stayed steady. The acquisition is complete. But I will not step in publicly until tomorrow. Harold's face tightened. Tomorrow. Jordan nodded. Tomorrow morning. The board will meet. And I will take my seat as majority owner. Harold's body swayed slightly. Patrice grabbed his arm. Harold. Harold looked like he might collapse. Mariah's voice became frantic. Jordan. Please. Please. We can fix this. Jordan looked at her. Fix what? Mariah's voice broke. Our marriage. Jordan stared at her. Then he spoke slowly. Mariah. You handed me divorce papers in front of your whole family. You let them laugh. You let them call me worthless. You watched my dignity get dragged across this living room like it was nothing. Mariah cried. I'm sorry. Jordan nodded. I believe you are sorry. Mariah's eyes lit up with hope again. Jordan continued. But you are sorry because you found out who I am. Mariah froze. Jordan continued. Not because you finally realized what you did was wrong. Mariah's tears fell faster. Jordan continued. And I can't build a life with someone whose respect depends on my bank account. Mariah shook her head. No. Jordan. I loved you. Jordan's eyes softened slightly. Then he spoke quietly. You loved what you thought I could become. Not who I already was. Patrice stepped forward again. Jordan, please. You're married. You can't just walk away. Jordan looked at her. Then he spoke calmly. I'm not walking away. I'm being pushed away. Patrice's mouth opened. Jordan continued. Your daughter pushed me away tonight. In front of witnesses. Patrice's eyes filled with tears. Mariah whispered. Jordan. Please don't do this. Jordan looked at her for a long moment. Then he reached for the divorce papers. Mariah flinched. Jordan took the papers gently from her hands. He looked at the signature line again. His signature was already there. Jordan nodded slowly. Then he folded the papers neatly. Mariah watched with shaking lips. Jordan walked toward the coffee table. He placed the papers down calmly. Then he pulled out his phone again. Mariah whispered. What are you doing? Jordan's voice stayed calm. Calling my attorney. Patrice gasped. No. Jordan nodded slowly. Yes. Mariah stepped closer. Jordan. Wait. Jordan held up one hand. Not rude. Just final. Mariah froze. Jordan spoke into the phone. Hello. Yes, it's Jordan Pierce. I need you to prepare the filing for tomorrow morning. Yes. Divorce. And also the board announcement package. Yes. The acquisition is complete. Yes. Thank you. Jordan ended the call. The room felt like it had lost oxygen. Mariah stared at Jordan like she could not believe the man she mocked had become the man destroying her world. Harold's voice trembled. Jordan. Please. I need to talk to you. Jordan looked at Harold calmly. We can talk tomorrow. Harold swallowed hard. Jordan continued. Tomorrow. You will speak to me as a man who owns your company. Not as a man you dismissed. Harold's eyes filled with tears. Patrice whispered. Jordan. Please don't do this to us. Jordan's eyes stayed steady. You already did this to yourselves. Mariah's body shook. Jordan. Where will you go? Jordan looked at her. Then he spoke calmly. Somewhere I am not laughed at. Mariah cried harder. Jordan turned toward the door. DeAndre stepped forward. You can't just leave. Jordan looked at him. Then he spoke quietly. Watch me. Jordan walked toward the door slowly. Mariah rushed after him. Her voice desperate. Jordan. Please. Please. Jordan paused at the doorway. He turned back. And the whole room held its breath. Because everyone wanted one thing. A chance. A loophole. A miracle. Mariah whispered. I didn't mean it. Jordan looked at her with calm eyes. Then he spoke the sentence that cut deeper than any insult. You meant it enough to do it in front of them. Mariah froze. Jordan turned and walked out. The door closed behind him. And the silence that followed was louder than their laughter had ever been. Mariah collapsed onto the couch. Patrice stood frozen, staring at the door like she was staring at the end of her family name. Harold sat down slowly. His hands shaking. DeAndre cursed under his breath. Keisha whispered. We're finished. And in that moment, they all finally understood the truth. The man they mocked did not need them. They needed him. And now, he owned the company. He owned the future. And he owned the power to decide what happened next. Jordan Pierce did not sleep that night because sleep belongs to people whose lives are stable, and his life had shifted so hard in one evening that the ground still felt like it was moving. He sat in a quiet hotel suite with the city lights glowing through the windows and the divorce papers folded neatly on the table like a death certificate for the marriage he once fought to protect. His phone buzzed non-stop. Mariah. Mariah again. Patrice. DeAndre. Harold. Numbers he did not recognize. Voicemails piling up like desperate prayers. Jordan did not answer. Because he had learned something important. People who laugh at you when they think you are nothing will beg you when they discover you are everything. And Jordan refused to let begging sound like love. At 5:30 in the morning Jordan took a shower slowly and dressed in a charcoal suit with a white shirt and a simple tie. He looked in the mirror and saw the same face he had always seen. A quiet black man. A calm black man. A man who had been underestimated his entire life. But today he would walk into a room where underestimating him would be expensive. Jordan left the suite at 6:15 and rode down in the elevator alone. In the lobby the concierge greeted him politely. Good morning, sir. Jordan nodded. Good morning. A black sedan waited outside. His legal team had arranged it. Jordan stepped in and the driver pulled away smoothly. Across town Mariah had not slept either. She sat on the edge of her bed in the apartment she shared with Jordan, staring at the empty side where he should have been. Her phone was in her hands. She had called him 30 times. She had texted him more than that. She had cried until her throat hurt. And still he did not respond. Mariah finally realized something terrifying. Jordan was not ignoring her to punish her. Jordan was ignoring her because he had already moved on in his mind. And that realization made her panic deeper. She stood up quickly and threw on clothes without caring how she looked. Because this morning was bigger than her pride. This morning was survival. Patrice was already in Harold's house pacing the living room like a trapped animal. Her robe was still on. Her hair wrapped. Her eyes swollen from crying. Harold sat at the dining table staring at his laptop screen. The email from the board still open. The words still there. Majority ownership transferred to Jordan Pierce. Board meeting scheduled 9 a.m. Patrice's voice was sharp. Harold, you have to stop him. Harold's voice was hollow. I can't stop him. Patrice slammed her hand on the wall. He's nobody. Harold finally looked up. Patrice. He's not nobody. Patrice's eyes flashed. He is my daughter's husband. Harold whispered. Not anymore. Patrice froze. Because Harold's words carried the weight of reality. Patrice's voice dropped. You're gonna lose everything. Harold swallowed hard. We already did. Patrice's breathing became shallow. DeAndre stormed into the room fully dressed. His jaw tight. His eyes wild. Where he at? Harold shook his head. I don't know. DeAndre cursed. We gotta go to the office. Patrice nodded. Yes. We have to go. We have to talk to the board. Harold looked down. They won't listen to us. DeAndre snapped. They will if I make them. Harold finally raised his voice. DeAndre. Sit down. DeAndre froze. Harold continued. This is bigger than your temper. DeAndre's fists clenched. Patrice whispered. We should call Mariah. Harold nodded slowly. Call her. Patrice grabbed her phone and dialed. Mariah answered immediately with a shaky voice. Mama. Patrice's voice became urgent. Baby, listen. You need to get to the office right now. Mariah whispered. I'm already on my way. Patrice swallowed hard. Good. We need to stop him. Mariah's voice cracked. I can't stop him. Patrice snapped. Yes, you can. You're his wife. Mariah whispered. I handed him divorce papers. Patrice froze. Then her voice became smaller. Oh God. Mariah's voice broke. Mama. What did we do? Patrice swallowed. Just get there. Mariah ended the call. By 8:45 the Apex manufacturing headquarters was buzzing in a way it had not buzzed in months. Employees moved quickly. Security stood straighter. Executives arrived early. Because rumors had already started. People had heard whispers last night. People had seen emails. People had seen the sudden board schedule. And nobody knew exactly what was happening. But everyone knew something big was about to explode. Jordan arrived at 8:50. He stepped out of the sedan and stood for a moment outside the building looking up. The glass tower reflected the morning sun. This company had once been his dream. Not to own it. To work there. To be respected there. To build something there. But respect had always been denied to him because he did not fit their image. Jordan walked toward the entrance. Security stopped him. Good morning, sir. Can I help you? Jordan looked at the guard calmly. Yes. I'm here for the board meeting. The guard frowned. Board meeting is private. Jordan nodded. I know. The guard hesitated. Sir, I need your name. Jordan spoke calmly. Jordan Pierce. The guard's eyes widened slightly. One of the guards behind him glanced at a printed memo on the desk. His face changed. He stood straighter. Yes, sir. Welcome. The guard stepped aside quickly. Jordan walked in. And the lobby that used to ignore him now watched him like he was royalty. Inside the building, executives were already gathering near the conference floor. The boardroom was on the top level. Private elevator access. Security posted. Jordan's legal team met him near the elevator. A tall black woman named Attorney Renee Collins. A calm black man named Attorney Marcus Hill. They greeted him respectfully. Good morning, Mr. Pierce. Jordan nodded. Good morning. Renee handed him a folder. Everything is prepared. Jordan looked at the folder. Then he nodded. Thank you. Marcus spoke quietly. The board is already seated. Jordan nodded. Good. They entered the private elevator and rode up. The elevator doors opened directly into the executive floor. Quiet carpet. Glass walls. Large art pieces. A space designed to intimidate ordinary people. Jordan walked through it like he belonged there. At 9:05 the boardroom doors opened. Jordan stepped in. And the room froze. Harold Pierce was already seated at the head of the table. Because he still believed he had authority. But the moment he saw Jordan his face collapsed. Because he realized authority is not where you sit. Authority is who owns the room. The board members looked up. Some looked curious. Some looked nervous. Some looked relieved. Jordan walked toward the table calmly. He did not smile. He did not gloat. He simply took the seat that had been prepared for him. The seat beside the chairman. Jordan placed the folder down. Then he looked around the room. "Good morning, everyone." His voice was calm. The chairman of the board, a gray-haired black man named Leonard Grant, cleared his throat. "Good morning, Mr. Pierce." Jordan nodded. "Good morning, Mr. Grant." Leonard Grant continued. "Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the new majority owner of Pierce and Grant Manufacturing, Jordan Pierce." The room murmured softly. Harold's hands trembled on the table. Leonard continued. "Mr. Pierce, you have the floor." Jordan stood up slowly. He looked around the room. He made eye contact with each board member. Then he spoke in a steady voice. "I appreciate everyone coming on short notice. The company is in a critical position. Debt. Lost contracts. Damaged reputation. And internal dysfunction." The board nodded. Jordan continued. "This company has been run like a family kingdom. Not a professional organization." Harold's face tightened. Jordan continued. "And that ends today." Harold finally spoke. "Jordan. You can't just come in here and talk like that." Jordan looked at him calmly. "I can. Because I own 61%. Harold's voice cracked. "How?" Jordan's eyes stayed steady. "That is not the question anymore. The question is, what happens next?" Leonard Grant nodded. "Proceed." Jordan continued. "I have reviewed financials. I have reviewed leadership decisions. I have reviewed contract failures. And I have reviewed internal culture complaints." The board shifted. Jordan continued. "This company is not failing because of the economy. It is failing because of leadership." Harold's jaw clenched. Jordan continued. "And the leadership has been Harold Pierce." Harold's face turned red. He slammed his hand on the table. "I built this company." Jordan nodded. "Yes, you did." Harold's voice rose. "You can't take it from me." Jordan's voice stayed calm. "I already did." Harold's breathing became heavy. Leonard Grant raised his hand. "Harold. Enough." Harold froze. Because he had never been silenced like that in his life. Jordan continued. "I want to make this clear. This is not personal." Harold scoffed. "Not personal." Jordan looked at him. "My marriage ended last night because of what your family did." Harold's face tightened. Jordan continued. "So yes. It is personal. But this decision is business." The board stayed silent. Jordan continued. "I am removing Harold Pierce as CEO effective immediately." The room went still. Harold's eyes widened. "You can't." Leonard Grant spoke. "He can." Harold's face collapsed. Jordan continued. "There will be an interim CEO appointed today. And I will take executive control as majority owner until restructuring is complete." The board nodded. Harold's hands trembled. Jordan continued. "I am also launching an internal audit. Leadership behavior. Financial misconduct. Supplier manipulation. Contract negligence. And nepotism." Harold swallowed hard. Jordan continued. "Anyone found guilty will be removed. No exceptions." The board murmured. Jordan continued. "And the first person under review will be DeAndre Pierce." The room froze again. Harold's head snapped up. "What?" Jordan looked at him calmly. "Your son has been receiving payments for contracts he did not deliver. The board members exchanged looks. Harold's voice cracked. That's a lie. Jordan opened the folder and slid documents across the table. It's not a lie. Harold's hands shook as he stared at the papers. Leonard Grant's voice became firm. Harold. This is serious. Harold's face turned pale. Jordan continued. This company will be saved. But not by pride. Not by family ego. Not by people who believe their last name is a crown. The board nodded. Jordan continued. It will be saved by discipline. Transparency. And respect. Harold's eyes watered. Because he finally understood. Jordan was not here to negotiate. Jordan was here to take control. At 9:25 the boardroom doors opened suddenly. Mariah rushed in. Her hair messy. Her eyes swollen. Her breathing heavy. Security tried to stop her but Leonard Grant waved them back. Mariah looked around the room. Her eyes landed on Jordan. And the sight of him sitting at the table in that chair made her knees weaken. Because it was real. Not a threat. Not a joke. Not a bluff. Jordan was there. And he looked like he belonged. Mariah's voice shook. Jordan. Please. The board members stared. Harold stared. Jordan remained calm. Leonard Grant frowned. Who is this? Jordan spoke calmly. My wife. Mariah flinched. Jordan continued. Soon to be ex-wife. The boardroom went silent. Mariah's face collapsed. Her voice trembled. Jordan. Please. We need to talk. Jordan looked at her calmly. Mariah. Not here. Mariah's tears fell. Jordan. You don't understand. Jordan's voice stayed calm. I understand perfectly. Mariah whispered. I didn't know. Jordan's eyes hardened slightly. And there it is again. The board members watched. Jordan continued. You didn't know. So you laughed. You didn't know. So you handed me divorce papers. You didn't know. So you let your family treat me like dirt. Mariah cried. I'm sorry. Jordan nodded. I believe you. Mariah's eyes lit with hope. Jordan continued. But sorry doesn't reverse disrespect. Mariah's hope died. Jordan looked at Leonard Grant. Continue the meeting. Leonard nodded. Yes, Mr. Pierce. Mariah's mouth opened. Jordan. Please. Jordan looked at her. Then he spoke quietly. Mariah. You wanted a man with power. Now you are watching him. Mariah sobbed. Jordan continued. And you lost him before you even recognized him. Mariah's body shook. Jordan turned back to the board. Mariah stood frozen. Because she realized. This was not a fight anymore. It was a consequence. Security approached her gently. Ma'am. You need to leave. Mariah's eyes stayed locked on Jordan. Jordan did not look back. Mariah was escorted out. And the boardroom returned to business. But everyone in that room understood something now. Jordan Pierce was not just a new owner. He was a storm. And the family who mocked him was about to be swept away. By the time the board meeting ended, the entire building felt different, like the air itself had changed, because power had shifted in one morning and everyone could sense it. The executives walked out of the boardroom with faces tight and eyes wide, and even the people who usually moved with arrogance now walked carefully like they were stepping through glass. Word spread down the floors fast. Harold Pierce removed. DeAndre under investigation. Majority owner is Jordan Pierce. Jordan Pierce is the new executive authority. And the craziest part. Jordan Pierce is Mariah Pierce's husband. The same Mariah who had been bragging for months about leaving him behind. The same Mariah who told people she was tired of carrying dead weight. The same Mariah who had laughed about upgrading. Now the entire company was whispering her name like it was a warning. Jordan walked out of the boardroom calmly with his legal team beside him. He did not rush. He did not smile. He did not act like a man who had just won a war. He moved like a man who had been preparing for this for years. Leonard Grant walked beside him. His voice respectful. "We have scheduled an all-staff briefing in the auditorium." Jordan nodded. "Good." Leonard continued. "Employees are anxious." Jordan's voice stayed calm. "They deserve clarity." Leonard nodded. "Yes." Jordan continued walking. Behind them Harold Pierce sat in the boardroom alone. His head in his hands. His shoulders shaking. Because the company he once ruled had turned into a courtroom. And his own son-in-law had become the judge. On the lower floors employees gathered in groups. Some excited. Some nervous. Some confused. Because rumors are dangerous when truth is missing. People whispered. "I heard the new owner is Mariah's husband." "No way. Mariah's husband is broke. I saw him at the cafeteria last year. He used to eat alone. He never talked to anyone." "That's him. That quiet guy. That's the one. How did he become majority owner?" And then another whisper followed. "He bought the company. He bought it quietly. He bought it while they laughed at him. He bought it while they thought he was nobody." Mariah was sitting in her car in the parking lot with her hands shaking on the steering wheel. She had been escorted out of the boardroom like she was a disturbance. Not a wife. Not a partner. A disturbance. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Texts from coworkers. Calls from cousins. Her mother calling repeatedly. Mariah did not answer at first because she could not breathe. She stared at the building through the windshield. And she realized something that made her stomach twist. The building looked the same. But her life inside it had ended. Because the Jordan she thought she controlled had become the Jordan who controlled everything. And she had signed the paper that cut herself off from him. Mariah finally answered her mother's call. Patrice's voice exploded through the phone. "Mariah. Where are you?" Mariah whispered. "In the car." Patrice snapped. "You need to come back inside. You need to talk to him." Mariah's voice cracked. "He won't talk to me." Patrice's voice became sharp. "He has to. You're his wife." Mariah whispered. "Not anymore." Patrice froze. Mariah continued. "Mama. He's done." Patrice's voice turned panicked. "No. No, he can't do this." Mariah whispered. "We did it." Patrice started crying on the phone. "Mariah. Please. Please fix it." Mariah's eyes filled with tears. "How?" Patrice's voice shook. "Just come. We're coming too." Mariah's breathing became shallow. "No. Mama, please don't." Patrice ignored her. "We're on our way." Patrice ended the call. At 10:45 the company auditorium filled up. Rows of employees. Supervisors. Managers. Even security. Everyone was present because the email announcement had gone out. Mandatory all-staff briefing. Executive leadership change. Attendance required. The stage was set. A podium. A microphone. The company logo behind it. Pierce and Grant Manufacturing. A name that used to represent Harold Pierce's ego. Now it represented Jordan Pierce's control. Jordan stood backstage for a moment. Renee Collins adjusted his jacket slightly. Marcus Hill handed him a new folder. Leonard Grant stood beside him. His voice low. Are you ready? Jordan nodded. Yes. Leonard studied him. I have been on this board for decades. And I have never seen a takeover this clean. Jordan's voice stayed calm. It wasn't a takeover. It was a rescue. Leonard nodded slowly. Then he said quietly. You know they will try to paint you as revenge. Jordan nodded. Let them. Leonard watched him. You're calm. Jordan's eyes stayed steady. I've been calm my whole life. Leonard gave a small smile. Then he stepped toward the stage. Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. The auditorium quieted instantly. Leonard continued. Today we have major changes to announce. The room held its breath. Leonard continued. As of this morning, Pierce & Grant Manufacturing has a new majority owner. The room murmured. Leonard raised his hand. Please remain calm. Leonard continued. This decision was made to protect the company and its employees. Because the company has been at risk. The murmurs grew. Leonard continued. And now I would like to introduce the new majority owner. Mr. Jordan Pierce. The room went silent. Then erupted. Because the name landed like thunder. People stood. People gasped. People whispered. Jordan. Jordan Pierce. That's Mariah's husband. No way. That's him. The quiet guy. Jordan walked onto the stage calmly. He wore the charcoal suit like armor. He stood behind the podium. He looked out at the crowd. And for a moment he saw faces he recognized. People who ignored him. People who mocked him quietly. People who assumed he was small. Jordan took a breath. Then he spoke into the microphone. Good morning everyone. His voice was steady. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just steady. The room quieted immediately. Jordan continued. I know this announcement is shocking. I know rumors are spreading. So I want to speak clearly. Jordan paused. Then he continued. I am Jordan Pierce. And as of this morning, I am the majority owner of Pierce & Grant Manufacturing. The room murmured again. Jordan raised his hand slightly. I did not buy this company to destroy it. I bought it to save it. The room listened. Jordan continued. This company has been in financial danger for a long time. Debt has been rising. Contracts have been lost. And leadership has failed to address the reality. The room grew quiet. Jordan continued. Because of that, Harold Pierce is no longer CEO. The room murmured loudly. Jordan continued. There will be an interim leadership team while we restructure. And there will be an internal audit. The room stayed silent. Jordan continued. I want to make one thing clear. No employee will lose their job because of this change. The room exhaled. Jordan continued. If you have been doing your job with integrity, you are safe. The room relaxed slightly. Jordan continued. But if you have been abusing your position, if you have been stealing, if you have been manipulating contracts, if you have been mistreating employees, you will be removed. The room grew tense again. Jordan continued. This company will be built on respect. Because I will not lead a company that treats people like they are disposable. The room listened closely. Jordan continued. And I know some of you are wondering. Why me? The room stayed quiet. Jordan continued. Because I have been connected to this company for a long time. Not through power. Through work. Jordan paused. Then he continued. I have worked inside this company quietly. I have sat in your break rooms. I have watched how leadership speaks to people. I have watched how employees are treated. And I have watched how good workers are ignored while arrogant people are promoted. The room murmured. Jordan continued. That ends today. The room became silent again. Jordan continued. Now. There is something else I need to address. The room leaned in. Jordan's eyes moved slowly across the crowd. Jordan continued. Some of you may know my wife. Mariah Pierce. The room froze. Because everyone knew this was coming. Jordan continued. Last night. In front of her family. Mariah handed me divorce papers. The room gasped. Jordan continued. And her family laughed. The room went dead silent. Jordan continued. They laughed because they believed I was powerless. They laughed because they believed I was nothing. Jordan paused. Then he continued. And I want all of you to understand. That I am not standing here today because I am angry. I am standing here today because I am responsible. The room listened. Jordan continued. I will not run this company like a family ego project. I will run it like a place where dignity matters. The room murmured in approval. Jordan continued. So let me say this clearly. This company will no longer be controlled by the Pierce family. It will be controlled by leadership. By accountability. And by the people who actually make this company work. The room erupted in applause. Jordan stood calmly. He did not smile. He let the applause happen. Because it was not about his ego. It was about the shift. The shift from arrogance to discipline. As the applause faded, the auditorium doors opened suddenly. Patrice stormed in with DeAndre and Keisha behind her. Harold followed slowly. Mariah walked behind them with her eyes red. The room turned. People whispered. That's them. That's the family. That's Mariah. Patrice marched down the aisle like she still had authority. But the room did not move for her. Because she no longer held power. Jordan saw them approaching. He remained calm. Patrice reached the front. She raised her voice. Jordan. You can't do this. The room went silent. Jordan looked down at her calmly. Patrice continued. This company belongs to our family. Jordan's voice stayed calm. It used to. Patrice's face twisted. You're doing this out of spite. Jordan nodded slowly. No. I'm doing this out of responsibility. Patrice shouted. You're married to my daughter. Jordan's eyes shifted to Mariah. Then back to Patrice. Jordan continued calmly. Not for long. Mariah flinched. The room murmured. Patrice's voice broke. Jordan, please. Jordan's eyes stayed steady. Patrice. Last night you laughed at me. Patrice's lips trembled. Jordan continued. Now you are begging me. Patrice cried. We didn't know. Jordan's eyes hardened slightly. That is the point. The room stayed silent. Jordan continued. You didn't know. So you treated me like trash. Patrice sobbed. Jordan continued. And that is exactly why you are not fit to represent this company. DeAndre stepped forward angrily. Man, you think you can just come in and embarrass us. Jordan looked at him calmly. I didn't embarrass you. You embarrassed yourselves. DeAndre's fists clenched. Jordan continued. And now you will face the consequences. Leonard Grant stepped forward. Security. Patrice screamed. No. Leonard's voice was firm. Escort them out. Patrice turned toward the crowd. Please. He's doing this because he hates us. Jordan's voice cut through the room calmly. No. I'm doing this because I finally respect myself. The room erupted again. Not laughter. Applause. Respect. Support. Patrice froze. Because she realized the crowd was not on her side. They were on Jordan's side. Because they had all been stepped on by the Pierce family arrogance for years. Security approached and guided Patrice and DeAndre away. Harold walked behind them slowly. His head low. Because he had been defeated publicly. Not by a stranger. By the man he dismissed as nothing. Mariah remained standing near the front. Her hands trembling. Her eyes locked on Jordan. The room watched her. Jordan looked down at her calmly. Mariah's voice cracked. Jordan. Please. Jordan's voice stayed steady. Mariah. Not here. Mariah whispered. I'm sorry. Jordan nodded. I know. Mariah's tears fell. Jordan continued. But sorry does not rebuild what you broke. Mariah's body shook. Jordan continued. You handed me divorce papers. In front of your family. You let them laugh. You watched me stand alone. Mariah sobbed. Jordan continued. Now you will stand alone. Mariah collapsed into sobs. Jordan looked away. Not cruel. Not happy. Just finished. Jordan returned to the microphone. His voice steady. Everyone. Thank you. The restructuring begins today. You will receive updates. And you will see changes quickly. Because this company will not be a place where dignity is optional. The crowd applauded again. Jordan stepped away from the podium. And as he walked off stage, employees stood. They clapped. They nodded. They watched him like he was a symbol. Not just an owner. A symbol of karma. Mariah stood frozen in the aisle. Watching her husband walk away. And she realized something that made her chest ache. Jordan was not destroying her family company out of revenge. Jordan was saving it. And the saddest part was that she could have stood beside him while he did it. She could have been his partner. His queen. His peace. But instead she chose to be his humiliation. And now she would watch him become powerful without her. And that was the punishment that hurt the most. The applause in the auditorium faded slowly, but the energy did not disappear, because the employees of Pierce & Grant had not just witnessed a leadership change. They had witnessed a lifetime of arrogance collapse in a single morning. They had watched the Pierce family walk in thinking they could still control the room. And they had watched security walk them out like they were ordinary. The humiliation Patrice tried to give Jordan last night had returned with interest. And the interest rate was public. Jordan walked down the hallway toward the executive floor with his legal team beside him, and behind him the murmurs followed like waves. People were already calling family members. People were already texting friends. Because stories like this spread fast. A man mocked as useless becomes the owner. A wife who laughed now cries. A family who bragged now begs. And the company that suffered now breathes again. Mariah remained in the auditorium for a moment after everyone began leaving. She stood alone in the aisle. Her red eyes staring at the stage. Her hands trembling. Her chest tight. She felt like she was standing in the ruins of her own decisions. Because she could not blame anyone else. Jordan did not cheat. Jordan did not abuse. Jordan did not betray her. Jordan simply became what he always was. A man of power. A man of discipline. A man of patience. And she punished him for it because she thought power only counts when it is loud. Mariah finally turned and walked out slowly. Employees moved around her like she was invisible. Not because they hated her. But because they did not want to touch her story. Some people looked at her with pity. Some looked at her with judgment. Some looked at her with quiet satisfaction. Because Mariah had been arrogant at work too. Not cruel like her mother. But proud. Always proud. Always talking about her future. Always speaking like she was above others. Now the same people who once smiled at her were avoiding her eyes. Because they knew the truth. The woman who talked about upgrading had just lost the greatest upgrade of her life. Mariah's phone buzzed again. This time it was Harold. She answered with a shaky voice. Hello. Harold's voice sounded broken. Mariah. Come home. Mariah whispered. I'm outside. Harold exhaled. This is bad. Mariah's voice cracked. I know. Harold continued. Your mother is losing her mind. DeAndre is furious. Mariah whispered. They did this. Harold's voice became low. We all did. Mariah closed her eyes. Harold continued. Mariah. You have to fix it. Mariah's voice cracked. I can't. Harold swallowed hard. Try. Mariah whispered. He won't even look at me. Harold's voice became desperate. Then you better find a way. Because if you don't, we are finished. Mariah ended the call and leaned against the wall in the lobby as tears fell again. Finished. That word sounded too final. Because she realized this was not just about the company. This was about everything. Her marriage. Her future. Her reputation. Her identity. Everything she built her pride on. Was collapsing. Mariah walked outside into the bright morning sun. The parking lot felt too normal for the chaos inside her chest. Cars moving. People walking. Birds chirping. And yet her world was ending. Mariah looked across the lot and saw Jordan's sedan parked near the executive entrance. A black sedan. Not flashy. Not loud. But clean. Controlled. Like him. Mariah walked toward it quickly. Her heels clicking. Her breathing fast. She reached the entrance where security stood. She tried to walk in. The guard stepped in front of her politely. Ma'am. You cannot enter. Mariah's eyes widened. I'm his wife. The guard hesitated. Then spoke carefully. Ma'am. Mr. Pierce has instructed us not to allow you upstairs. Mariah froze. Her throat tightened. Not allow you upstairs. That sentence crushed her. Because it was not emotional. It was professional. Jordan had turned her from wife into a risk. Mariah whispered. Please. I need to talk to him. The guard shook his head gently. Ma'am. I'm sorry. Mariah stepped back slowly. Her hands shaking. Then she pulled out her phone and called Jordan again. No answer. She texted. Jordan, please. No response. Mariah's breathing became shallow. She stared at the executive entrance. Then she made a decision. She would wait. 2 hours passed. Mariah sat in her car staring at the building. Her phone buzzed with messages from her mother. From her brother. From her cousins. From co-workers. But she ignored them. Because none of them mattered. Only Jordan mattered. She watched employees come and go. She watched executives move. She watched security rotate. She watched time pass. And she felt like she was sitting outside a door that used to be her home. But now she was locked out. At 1:15 Jordan finally exited the building. He walked with Leonard Grant and his legal team. They stopped near the entrance. Leonard spoke. We have scheduled the interim CEO appointment for tomorrow. Jordan nodded. Good. Leonard continued. Your presence has already shifted the company. Jordan's voice stayed calm. It needed shifting. Leonard nodded. Then he shook Jordan's hand firmly. Welcome to the seat you were always meant to occupy. Jordan nodded. Thank you. Leonard walked away. Renee and Marcus stepped aside to take calls. Jordan walked toward his sedan. Mariah stepped out of her car immediately. Jordan saw her. He stopped for a moment. Not shocked. Not angry. Just still. Mariah walked toward him quickly. Jordan. Please. Jordan's eyes stayed calm. Mariah. Mariah's voice cracked. I've been waiting. Jordan nodded slowly. I can see that. Mariah's lips trembled. Jordan. I'm sorry. Jordan exhaled slowly. Mariah. You've said that. Mariah stepped closer. Jordan. I didn't know. Jordan's eyes narrowed slightly. There it is again. Mariah froze. Jordan continued. Mariah. I want you to listen carefully. Mariah nodded quickly. Jordan continued. I am not divorcing you because you didn't know I bought the company. Mariah whispered. Then why? Jordan's voice stayed steady. Because you laughed at me. Mariah's tears fell. Jordan continued. Because you handed me divorce papers like I was a burden. Mariah cried. Jordan continued. Because you invited your family to watch. Mariah shook her head. I was emotional. Jordan nodded. You were proud. Mariah whispered. No. Jordan continued. You were proud. Because you believed you were better than me. Mariah's shoulders collapsed. Jordan continued. And that is the truth you keep avoiding. Mariah sobbed. Jordan. I was under pressure. Jordan nodded slowly. Pressure reveals character. Mariah cried. I can change. Jordan's eyes softened slightly. Then he spoke quietly. Mariah. You can change. Mariah's eyes lit up. Jordan continued. But you will change without me. Mariah's hope died instantly. Her face crumpled. Jordan. Please. Jordan continued. I will not be the lesson you learn and then keep. Mariah sobbed. Jordan continued. Because if I stay, I teach you that disrespect is forgiven as long as you apologize when you find out who I am. Mariah shook. Jordan continued. And I will never teach myself that I deserve that. Mariah fell to her knees in the parking lot. Not for drama. For real. Her hands gripping the concrete. Her shoulders shaking. Jordan watched her quietly. Not cruel. Not happy. Just calm. Mariah looked up at him with tears streaming. Jordan, please. I love you. Jordan's voice dropped lower. Mariah. Love without respect is just hunger. Mariah's mouth opened. Jordan continued. You were hungry for status. You were hungry for approval. You were hungry for a life you thought I couldn't give you. Mariah cried. I didn't mean it. Jordan nodded slowly. You meant it enough to do it in front of them. Mariah's face collapsed again. Jordan continued. I have one question for you. Mariah whispered. Anything. Jordan looked down at her. If I never bought that company. If I stayed the quiet man you called poor. Would you still want to be married to me right now? Mariah froze. Her mouth opened. No words came. Jordan nodded slowly. That silence is my answer. Mariah sobbed louder. Jordan turned slightly toward the car. Mariah grabbed his pant leg gently. Jordan. Please. Jordan paused. He looked down. Then he spoke softly. Mariah. Let go. Mariah's hands trembled. She let go slowly. Jordan continued. You are not a bad woman. Mariah looked up. Jordan continued. But you became a cruel one. Mariah cried. Jordan continued. And I refuse to be married to cruelty. Jordan opened the car door. Mariah screamed softly. No. Jordan paused again. Then he looked back at her. And he said the sentence that finally ended everything. I am not leaving you for someone else. I am leaving you for myself. Mariah's face shattered. Jordan got in a car. The driver closed the door. The sedan pulled away smoothly. Mariah sat on the concrete crying, watching the car disappear. And she realized the truth. The man she mocked did not need to punish her loudly. His silence was the punishment. Because silence meant she no longer mattered. That evening Jordan returned to the hotel suite. Renee and Marcus were already there. They handed him documents. The divorce filing. The non-disclosure agreements. The protective clauses. Jordan signed calmly. Not shaking. Not hesitating. Because he had already signed emotionally the night before. The legal signature was just paper. The real signature was his decision to choose peace. 2 days later Pierce and Grant Manufacturing announced publicly that Harold Pierce had resigned due to internal review. DeAndre was suspended pending investigation. Patrice's name disappeared from charity boards. The family that once walked like royalty now walked like people trying to hide. Because their pride had been exposed. And the city does not forget humiliation when it happens to the arrogant. Mariah tried again. She sent flowers. Jordan returned them. She wrote letters. Jordan did not respond. She begged through lawyers. Jordan stayed silent. Because Jordan had learned something. Some people do not deserve a second chance. Not because they are evil. But because they already showed you their truth. And the first time they showed you, you should believe them. Months later Jordan stood in the same company auditorium again. This time not as a surprise owner. But as the official chairman. Employees applauded. Not out of fear. Out of respect. Because under Jordan the company had stabilized. Contracts returned. Debt dropped. Culture changed. Managers were replaced. Workers were valued. And for the first time in years the company felt like it belonged to the people who built it. Jordan stood behind the podium. He looked out at the crowd. Then he spoke calmly. I want to thank every employee who stayed through the storm. Because this company is not mine. It is ours. The crowd applauded. Jordan continued. And I want to remind you of something. Never mistake quiet for weakness. The crowd roared. Jordan continued. Some of the strongest people you will ever meet will never raise their voice. They will simply change the room. The crowd stood. Applause shaking the auditorium. And somewhere across town Mariah watched the live stream from a small apartment. No longer the proud woman in red. No longer the rising star with a famous last name. Just a woman with regret. Watching the man she threw away become everything she wanted. And realizing she lost him long before she lost the company. She lost him the moment she chose laughter over loyalty. Jordan ended the speech and stepped away from the microphone. He walked backstage. Renee smiled at him. You did it. Jordan nodded. We did it. Marcus handed him his phone. A message from a new number. Jordan opened it. It was Mariah. Just one line. I'm sorry for who I became. Jordan stared at it for a moment. Then he locked the screen. Not because he hated her. But because he was done. Jordan walked out into the hallway. His step steady. His face calm. His future clean. Because the greatest karma is not revenge. The greatest karma is growth. And the greatest punishment for someone who disrespected you is watching you rise without them.